What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. On today's episode, we got a rebound from the Bulls having a tough loss against the Miami Heat. They are now out of first place, not tied, not anything. They are firmly out. Miami Heat holds that that number one spot in the Eastern Conference. So we'll talk about that, and also Billy Donovan's coaching, which is starting to kick up a little bit more in Bulls fandom conversation. So we'll get into both those topics right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central.
Okay, Bulls fans. So I had a live stream last night after the game, so I'm not going to get too far in depth and detail with it. What I will say, that the thing that bothered me the most is that the Bulls were clearly outworked, outcoached in almost every aspect of the game last night. And that's one of the things that is most concerning against this team. I'm not even going to get into the team against winning records or any of that. What we're seeing right now, at least in my opinion, isn't just about the against the winning teams. It's just the fact that Billy Donovan is being completely outclassed by coaches. And that is a bigger issue in many ways to me personally, because when you look at the playoffs, you're going to be facing the upper echelon coaches every night in and night out. Adjustments are key when you get into the playoffs. And like I've told you guys for so long, one of the key things, the way that and the lens that I choose to view this team through, is what's going to happen in the playoffs. How does this team fare in the playoffs? Now, yes, we know we're missing Lonzo. We know we're missing AC. We know we're missing Patrick Williams. So let's just get that out the way. We know we're missing them. But when you face teams, right, that have a coach that completely game plans for you, what we saw in this game against the Miami Heat was that the Heat were prepared. It looked like, to start the game, it looked like maybe the first 10 to 15 possessions, like the Miami Heat had a spy out there. And they knew exactly what the Bulls were going to be doing. We saw that defense react to everything that the Bulls were doing, like they had a foresight and knew exactly what was going to happen every single play, and that affected the Bulls. And then what we saw them do, the Bulls battled back in the second quarter, right? They did make some adjustments. Let's be clear there. The Bulls did make some adjustments in that second quarter that allowed them to really come back and close down that lead going into the half. They end up only going in the half down by 9. But then after that, we saw again Billy Donovan being out-coached. And that is, again, I'm not one of those, again, the sky is falling Bulls fans, you know what I call them, that are just sitting here saying, oh, Billy Donovan's terrible, let's fire Billy. I'm not saying anything like that. Not yet, at least, right? I will say this. If this is what we get in the playoffs, being completely out-coached, even when we're fully healthy, my tone on that may start to change a little bit. I'm not even going to lie to you. My tone may change drastically on that if this is what we see in the playoffs. But with what we have right now, I do still, when this roster's fully healthy, I still trust what we have on this roster. But at the end of the day, when you have a coach like Eric Spoelstra and what he was able to do, when you look at like what a coach like Greg Popovich was able to do, when you look at what like a coach like Doc Rivers were able, or when you look at what when we face the upper echelon coaches, right? Let's take team records and that whole 2 for 13 against 600 teams. Let's take all that out of consideration. Let's not even worry about that right now in this conversation. But when you look at the better coaches in the league, they're completely out-coaching and outclassing the Chicago Bulls. And that's what's most concerning for me. You can throw rosters and players and everything at teams all day long. But when you're just getting out-coached, when the X's or O's are what's breaking down your team, it's ugly. It's ugly, and it's always going to get rougher before it gets better. So I know we had a lot of fun in the live stream last night. I know we had fun. We shared laughs. We did all that. But there are some serious things that are concerning about the Chicago Bulls team and in the coaching staff. Outside of that, again, ball movement being key. Now, in this game, the Bulls did have 23 assists. But one thing that came out and Stacey King said during the broadcast that I wasn't even aware of, when the Bulls have 16 assists or less, they are 5-5. They are a 500 team. This is why ball movement is important. And you will get the people who say, oh, well, it's iso ball that's keeping ball moving. It's not just iso ball. The fact of the matter is we have players watching Zach LaVine, watching Nikola Vucevic, watching DeMar DeRozan, just go and try to make something happen at times, and they are not moving without the ball. I've stressed this enough so many times when it comes to basketball. With the lack of ball moving, I'm sorry, guess what? AC and Lonzo Ball coming back isn't going to be what fixes ball movement, not in the way that Billy Donovan uses them. Billy Donovan does not use Lonzo in that traditional point guard role, right? He's still the point guard, because I know some people are going to try to go off with that, but in a traditional point guard role where he is running the offense every play, That's not the way that they use him. It's not going to help ball movement. Now, Lonzo being out there and being a threat shooting is going to help with spacing. It's going to help a lot, right? We know what Lonzo brings, especially on the defensive end. Lonzo is great. I still want to see Lonzo unlocked more on offense, all those things. But when you have the base that this team has and what the coaching staff seems like they're preaching to them, it's an issue. And we can sometimes some fans have gotten so caught up in the fact that the Bulls were number one in the East that they just, oh, well, I thought we were number one in the East for the most part of the season. Yes, we were, but guess what? Look at the record in which the Bulls got there. And that's not to take anything away from them. The Bulls have played great. They've looked great at certain stretches. They looked amazing. The ball movement has looked great in certain areas. When we think about it this way, when we were in the preseason, even in the first, where we started off the season 4-0, when we were in those games, the ball movement was spectacular. And that was before we had a player like Kobe coming back off the bench. Like, it was great. We need to get back to that. One thing also that we're seeing from, and this is where Lonzo and AC are going to help drastically. The Bulls being in the passing lanes, getting easy transition buckets that we talked about so frequently in the preseason, probably the first 8 games of the season, is all but gone now. Those things we need to see come back. We need to see come back around and be fixed for this team. Otherwise, it's going to get very, very ugly in this next stretch. The month of March is not getting any easier for the Chicago Bulls. We have the Atlanta Hawks coming up on Thursday. We got Milwaukee Bucks coming up on Friday. The Bulls need to look at this. You've heard some things now with Billy Donovan being upset with this Bulls roster. He needs to be upset, but he needs to look at himself first and ask himself, what is he doing? And people ask, what was the difference between Chris Fleming coaching and Billy Donovan coaching? Billy Donovan was still helping with those game plans, but it seemed like Chris Fleming was a quicker coach to make adjustments. Again, not saying he's a better coach, but he was quicker to make adjustments. That's what we need. That's what playoff basketball becomes about. It's about the X's and O's. It's about how you take advantage of mismatches. It's all those things. And right now, what we've been seeing from this team, not just in this stretch, throughout the season, even in our wins, what we're seeing from this team is that they are not making adjustments quick enough to take advantage of some things. And that's on offense and defense, but specifically defensive adjustments, right? There are some issues with offensive adjustments, especially when, like I said, ball movement. Defensive adjustments are not being made, and Billy Donovan is being outcoached and outclassed by the best coaches in the league. And as long as we're still seeing that, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. The Bulls in this game, what I thought we were going to be completely out-rebounded, we ended up only being out-rebounded by 1. The turnovers in this game, 14 turnovers for the Miami Heat. Blocks in this game, 4 blocks for the Chicago Bulls, 5 blocks for the Miami Heat, even though it seemed like the Miami Heat had 10 or 12 blocks. Steals, the Bulls won the steal game 9-8, right? This is where box score isn't just going to tell you. And people, you can look at points and everything like that. But what in watching this game, the momentum never really seemed like it was in the Bulls' hands. Yes, that stretch in the second quarter, it definitely seemed like they were picking up some momentum. But they didn't. Another down third quarter as well from the Chicago Bulls. These things are concerning. Now, to flip on that, I know this video has been very negative up until this point. What I do want to say that it's good to see. It seems like Zach's getting more comfortable with that knee. We need to see things like that. Ayo Dosunmu was way more aggressive. At times, he was the most aggressive player out there when we were down big. Nikola Vucevic didn't have the best game, especially not defensively and rebounding-wise. He shot the ball at 50%, which is pretty well. 0 for 3 from three-pointer. At this point, I'm starting to believe, like I've always said, and he still needs to take those open threes. But if he didn't make, at this point, Vooch needs to take 1 3 for every 5 made baskets in the post. But with that being said, so Kobe White again, 3 for 11. This was a bad game. It was a bad game. And it sucks to continue to see a team in which we believe in, right? To continue to drop goose eggs against the upper echelon team. Now, I said it, the Bulls schedule, it doesn't get any better. The Bulls have a hellified schedule coming up. Atlanta, Milwaukee, Philly are our next 3 games, followed by Detroit, then Cleveland, Sacramento, Utah, Phoenix, Toronto, Milwaukee, New Orleans, then Cleveland again, then New York, then Washington. Listen, we need to play better. And this is the thing. I'm not even saying that the Bulls, Like, for those who are like, well, we win with AC, we win with Lonzo. Like, I'm not even talking about necessarily wins. I'm talking about the way in which this team plays. A tight loss, fine, I can take that. A loss in which you play and you execute well and you just didn't have it, take that. Being outclassed and outcoached, I'm not taking that anymore. You fans can, you're welcome to. I understand. I know this is probably going to get some dislikes. That's all fine and dandy, because one thing that I have to do and be honest with in covering this team is objectivity, and that means calling out the victories, but as well as calling out the issues and the losses. And this was an ugly loss. This was a loss that was just, it was distasteful in the way that we lost. In the way that we lost. It's just hard. But let me know what you guys think down below. I know we got a lot of voicemails in. I'll play those tomorrow. This is just me ranting and venting for a minute about this Bulls team. And I hope this and overall, I still trust this Bulls team ability to get it together, especially once we get AC and Lonzo back and Patrick Williams back hopefully soon, which we're closer to than ever. We're closer to than ever. I've said it. I've always said that I think by the March 12th, March 14th game, between those two games, we get both of those guys back by then. So we're 12, 13 days away, hopefully, from Lonzo and Alex Caruso being back on this team. But until then, I want to see better effort from this team. I want to see better execution. I want to see players moving and cutting without the ball, which frees up mismatches and shooting opportunities and everything like that. I want to see those things come back. I want to see the effort from this team on the defensive end. But let me know what you guys think down below about this game overall. Let me think if you think I'm being a little too harsh on the team. Let me know what you think the Bulls can do to work themselves out of this. And where do you sit with Billy Donovan right now as the Bulls head coach? Let me know all that down below. Make sure you're following the podcast at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave us a voicemail, you can do so at 773-270-2799. Like I like to end everything on. Go Bulls. Love you guys. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.